Good morning. My name is Camilo Casayas, and I will be giving a speech in request for the revival of Atari. I come to you today not as the head of Team Sikkim or as a video game developer, but as a gamer. The name Atari is one heard by gamers all across the world. Video games simply wouldn't have been where they are today if it wasn't for them. I'd like to start by giving a brief history of Atari and why it matters so much that we bring them back in the 21st century. Atari was founded in 1972 by Nolan Bushnell and Ted Dabney. After their assembly, they released Pong, an arcade game with the simple premise of putting ping pong into a 2D video game. Pong became a massive success, becoming one of the first most popular video games and launched video gaming into a whole new era. Afterwards came the Atari 2600, one of the first few popular home consoles. They helped smooth the transition over from arcade games outside to home console gaming at home. During this time, they would play heavily onto their brand name and release a bunch of advertisements, such as commercials and newsletters, about their games. Warner Communications would go out of their way to buy Atari, which allowed them to create games based on their movies. However, this is where their downfall began. When E.T. the Extraterrestrial came out for the Atari 2600, the game sold extremely poor. It was very underdeveloped with an extremely short development time. The game was exceedingly difficult for the average person to play, and there were so many copies of this unsold game, it dealt a huge blow to Atari's finance and reputation. It's safe to say that from this point on, Atari turned to the worst, as they went from one of the most profitable companies in the US to one of the worst. Something was lost during this moment of time in both the company and their quality of games. Other companies like Nintendo and Sega started to dominate thanks to their very marketable characters and well-polished games. Eventually, Atari split into Atari Games and Atari Computers. Some failed consoles and rebrands later, we now have the modern Atari, which is also known as Atari SA, who focuses on re-releasing old Atari games and selling Atari-themed merchandise. It's very clear that ever since Atari was bought out by Warner Communications, they focused more on the potential numbers rather than the quality of their games. This quickly resulted in their downfall, and while others were able to rise in their stead, I still wholeheartedly believe that Atari could make a comeback today. But first, we need to talk about the current market for video games. Back then, people were playing games that were quick, difficult, ate your quarters, and offered lots of repetitive gameplay with almost no story. Gaming today is almost the complete opposite. While there are still games coming out that have been inspired by the arcade era in which Atari comes from, most games go against that arcade-like formula. What exactly I mean by that is try to think about how arcade games function. Arcade games were created for people to play multiple times to try to get a high score. In today's society, the average attention span of a person is 8 to 12 seconds, which means that this formula of gaming will just not do. Instead, we need to align ourselves more to the formula of games people enjoy today. These types of games often fall into either games that have rich story or games with gameplay mechanics both fun or complex. Atari has recently released games onto new platforms over the past few years. However, these games insist on re-releasing older games. Although there was a major craze for retro gaming a couple of years back, if we truly want to revive Atari, we need to do something new. Thus, here is my proposal to save Atari. First, we need to create a game. This game must align with how gamers would enjoy games today. As I have proposed before, these games must focus heavily on either story or gameplay. Due to the nature of older Atari games, I think focusing on gameplay is our best shot here. We can begin with one game at a time, where we only focus on one game during its development and try to make it the best we can. We could think of this as a trial run to see if people would love for Atari to make a comeback as well. There are many types of games we can create which focus on gameplay mechanics. I think our best bet is a game that has some form of single player and multiplayer content, since it would also align with Atari's brand. The game must be visually appealing. We could go for an either 3D or 2D pixel look, something that feels both new and good to play. However, what we must not do is create a sequel or a remake of an older Atari game. While this game can contain references to older games, this one should feel new in the public's eyes. People are tired of nostalgia baiting. They want to play and experience new games. Thus, this game must be branded as a new experience. Finally, this game should have a good soundtrack. We can hire guys who have made great soundtracks of other games similar to this one, but it's important since people love a game with a good soundtrack. We can also put this soundtrack on music platforms for more engagement, so it needs to be good. As for marketing, we will need someone to run the social media accounts. It's important that the person running these social media accounts engage in a professional manner with our audience, as doing so would help spread word of the new game. Additionally, we will need to create a trailer for this game as soon as possible. Like I said, this game needs to be presented as something new and fresh coming from the same company everyone knows. To help further clear our new brand image, we should host online conferences for people to watch. The first few should focus on the games we're working on so people can get a better understanding of what we're selling to them, and afterwards we can talk about how we're taking new steps towards a revival for Atari. I believe that if we take these steps, we can not just revive Atari, but cement its name back as a great modern developer of video games. To conclude, we must create a new game that has modern players in mind, which is both fun to play and experience as a gamer. I wholeheartedly believe that with the brilliant minds at Atari SA, this dream can become more than a reality. If you have any questions about this plan, please let me know now or reach out to me through my email. Thank you so much for listening and have a great day.